It is now January 1st, 2025, and wow, I can't believe I'm even saying that. And it's that time of the year that I'm going to rank my top 10 favorite movies of the year, of my top 10 favorite movies of 2024. And in 10th place, we have Sonic the Hedgehog 3. This was just a blast of a movie, and I just think that it's not only it is easily the best Sonic movie, and I think that it's really just the best we've had of Jim Carrey in years. And with this movie, we get to see two Jim Carreys just interact with each other, and they're both hilarious. And this movie is a blast of a movie. And the only thing I think that held it back is I didn't think it had any cool slow mo action. But other than that, it's just an awesome movie. It's a lot of fun. And in ninth place, we have Wicked. And this was a movie that completely surprised me. I did not care about this movie at all, but I watched it and I thought it was great. I really like the original, The Wizard of Oz, but even going into this movie, like my mom wanted to see it with me because she liked the musical. I still thought it looked good, but I really didn't expect to love it as much as I did. I think that it is hilarious. I think that that this music is beautiful. It is extremely heartfelt, and it's so dramatic, and I loved it. It was a great movie and one of my most surprising movies of the year. Just a great, and I'm very excited for Wicked too. Coming in eighth place, we have Inside Out 2, and I'm just so glad to rank a Pixar movie on my top 10 favorite movies of the year because Pixar has had a rough couple of years, but I am just so glad to say that this movie was just great. I thought that it was a big improvement over the first one, and I still thought the first one was great, but I think that this one is funnier. Obviously, it's better animated, which is to make sense. I mean, it came out 8 years later. Or 9 years. Oh my God, I'm getting old. But 9 years later, and it's beautiful, and it just I would say that it just allows this movie to be, I feel like, much more relatable with the character of anxiety. And like I said, I thought that it was an improvement in many ways. I think that it had that better emotion for the most part, and I thought it was way funnier than the first one. This movie is genuinely laugh out loud hilarious, at least in my opinion. And I thought that it was filled with so much beautiful emotion, and it's just a great movie. Not only a great kids movie, but just a great movie. And coming in seventh place, we have Trap. And this is a movie where I liked it the first time I watched it, and then when I watched it a second time, I really liked it. I think I kind of just accepted that this movie there is a lot of stuff in this movie that just doesn't make sense, but I just found it to be so much fun watching Josh Hartnett to just completely like duck and weave the cops as this killer trying to avoid everyone, and just it's so interesting to see how smart he is in order to outplay everybody, and just it's also, I think, is kind of almost very funny in like a dark way. And like I said, Josh Hartnett's performance is just so good. He's so creepy, but somehow just entertaining and likable. Like I said, I thought it was good at first, but upon rewatching it, I thought it was even better. I really liked it. Coming in sixth place, we have Challengers, and this is a movie that very much pleasantly surprised me simply because of the fact I'm just not a big Zendaya fan. I really don't care for her as an actress. And even in this movie, I mean, you're not supposed to like her in this movie. Like, she's not supposed to be a likable character, but I will admit she is very good in this movie. And like, as a fan, I do like tennis. I don't watch it, but I do occasionally play it. I've never been more into tennis than in this movie. The way it is shot, from the cinematography to the sound design, the camera angle, where you're following the ball, in as many ways it's just this twisted love story that even though you almost don't like any of these characters, at the same time you're rooting for them, as these two guys both want the same girl, and in many ways this girl almost wants both these guys, and it's just this twisted, terrible love story in a way, but at the same time, like, I want them to all be together in a terrible kind of way. And it's stuff like that I think just make this movie so good, is just the opinions that it makes you think of. Just like, I love these characters somehow. It's like, I don't get it. I really don't. But somehow I just found it to be extremely engaging. It's definitely a movie I need to rewatch soon. I thought it was great. And coming in fifth place, we have Long Legs. And this is also another movie where I have only seen it once. I definitely want to see it again. And I might be a little biased. Okay, I am biased because I'm just a massive Nicolas Cage fan. I think that he is a very underrated actor. And when you say underrated, like, of course, Nicolas Cage, everyone knows him. But I think that in many ways, because he's so over the top, it sometimes gives, like, some people say bad performances. I just kind of like always view it as that's what he's trying to do. He's never ceases to entertain me. And in this movie, it genuinely makes you feel scared of him. And some people may like think that this movie may have been disappointed in this movie because it was hyped up as the scariest horror movie ever made. And it's not. It's not really that scary. But it's just so atmospheric that I just loved it. And the performances are so great. Like every single but in a movie with Nicolas Cage, who's fantastic, I feel like Micah Monroe is almost standout. And in many ways, this movie, it's very similar to Silence of the Lambs. Not as good as Silence of the Lambs, of course, but it does have that slow burn detective serial killer vibe because that's basically what this movie is, but just with a couple of twists and turns that I just really liked. And it makes it almost interconnected and personal, especially between Longlegs and Micah Monroe's character, that I just found to be very fascinating. And I'm very excited to eventually watch this movie again. I thought it was very good. Who knows, maybe I won't like it as much as I did the first time, or maybe I'll like it even more. Like when I watched Trap for the second time, I liked it even more. But as of right now, I thought this movie was just great. And coming in fourth place, we have Smile 2. Now, this is a movie where when I first watched this movie in theaters, I thought it was the best horror movie of the year. And when I rewatched it, I still just really, really liked it. I've seen some people not like it as much, but I think the reason what made me like it so much is everything that the first Smile did, this movie does even more of, and I think even better. I think it feels grander in scope because in this one, our main character is a pop star who starts to see these visions of the Smile Demon. And it feels more personal because there's grander stakes because of who she is and her status. So it allows you to feel maybe not as much more of a relatable character, but definitely more of an interesting character because we know there are greater stakes here. And it feels so personal, especially between the relationship between her and her mother. And I thought like it ups the gore, and I will say, I wouldn't really say it's as atmospheric as something like Longlegs, but in terms of just how much fun I had during this movie, I think this is one of the most fun horror movies of the year, and I just thought it was an absolute blast. And I really hope they make a Smile 2. I don't think they will, but this is just a world where I just want to see more of. Like, I like this concept, and I just really like this movie. I maybe been overhyping it, but personally, I just really loved it. And coming in third place, we have My Old Ass. And this movie was great. It's such a simplistic movie. It's only an hour and a half, probably even shorter than that. But it just is so great at just how personal it is. As with these characters, you care so much. It's so interesting just because we're seeing the eyes of our main character as she interacts with her older self. And it's just so personal. Like, a lot of the advice that the older self gives is like, oh, you should spend more time with your mom and your brother. And it's stuff that you really do, like, kind of just know, like, even if you're younger, you know, yeah, one day that will be true. And that's what I think was just so beautiful about this movie. And this movie is also very funny. And Elliot as a character is just learning through so much throughout this movie about herself, about like what she's going to be when she's older. And I really thought this was just a beautiful movie, and it's also just hilarious. I thought it was great. I really loved it both times I watched it. Coming in second place, we have The Wild Robot, and I thought that this movie was incredible. I think that it is so emotionally moving, and when in many ways, this movie is just about parenting and motherhood. And I thought it was beautiful. Every frame of this movie, I just loved looking at. I thought it was gorgeous. And Lupita Nyong'o, you're like, how is this voice coming from a human? She is fantastic in this movie. She is so good. And I thought it was beautiful. I loved it. And I really want to watch it again. I can't wait. And I loved it. I'm overhyping. Maybe it sounds like I'm overhyping it, but it really is great. And coming in at number one, we have Nosferatu. And I loved it. This is my favorite movie of the year. Obviously, it's not number one, but the atmosphere. I know it's overused, but the atmosphere, the acting, the characters, all in many ways, it's just this twisted love story, and I loved it. It was great. Definitely my favorite movie of the year. So tell me, what is your favorite movie of the year? Leave your top 10 favorite movies of the year in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe for more rankings and reviews.